Welcome to Austin Stories Entitled People. We have some crazy Karens and arrests and everything here for you today. Remember, the Austin Stories podcast is available on all your favorite podcast platforms, so check me out on there as well. Karen gets arrested because I wasn't being a good cashier? Posted by Sim Mini. So I used to work as a cashier in a supermarket. This story took place on my 4th day of work there, and my 2nd day working at a cash register on my own without a supervisor sitting next to me, like teaching me the ropes. Yes, I had 2 days of training. I'm sure most of you will figure out in which country I live from the following explanation. It will become relevant later. Supermarkets in my country are a zoo on a regular day. However, Thursdays and Fridays are absolute mayhem at the store and are a special kind of heck. Fridays, the store closes 2 hours before sundown, as do most stores in this country. So during the winter, this means at around 1400 and in summer, closer to 1630. People get crazy on Fridays, trying to get all their shopping done and get home in time to cook dinner. If you can avoid coming to the store on Friday, please do so at all costs. I always told people after this day. The reason Thursdays are heck is because we get all the customers who don't want to come in on Friday. Now, this was early evening on a Thursday, at a time when the store is absolutely jam-packed. We had 10 checkout lines open, and every line had at least 6 or 7 people in line. Basically, if you're stuck with the slow cashier, there is nowhere else to go unless you have 10 items or less. Everything is going well until I get a customer with 2 shopping carts full of items, mostly non-perishable items, and these are the large carts you find around big stores in the US like Walmart. I found out later he buys this for a community center in his neighborhood and he fills up their pantry twice a year. Nice guy. He greeted me very politely and then said the most dreaded words I could have ever heard that night. "This will be a delivery." Just a quick break from the story to explain why this was so dreaded, especially on a day like today. When we get a delivery, the cashier would call a helper from the store to help bag the groceries. Usually, people do their own bagging. The bags would then be placed in plastic containers, and then containers would be placed on top of each other and taken to the back fridge until delivery. A regular delivery is usually between 3 to 5 crates. Each crate has a number, which then I have to input all of them into the computer, along with correct delivery address and phone numbers, and print out with the receipt and place copies in the crates. Even for a small delivery, this always takes extra time. Back to the story. This guy has 2 full carts and wants a delivery. I say, sure, no problem. And then I turn to everyone else in line and let them know that this is a delivery and it will take just a bit longer than usual and apologize for any delay this may cause. We always do this, so customers will be aware of the delay and can move to another cash register if they're in a hurry. This is when the whole line groans simultaneously. I don't blame them. There was nowhere else to go. I could see every one of them craning their necks to check out other lines, and they all decided to stay. So I start scanning as fast as I can. I'm pretty good with numbers, so even though it's my 4th day, I remember many of the codes and things are moving rather quickly. I get to a point where the bagger can't keep up with all the items, and the area to the left of me, where I place all the scanned items, is just a mountain of cans and bags of chips and whatnot. I can't even scan another item because they're all falling back onto my scale. At this point, I stop and ask if he wants help bagging. The customer and the bagger are both appreciative, and I help bag groceries for a few minutes. Just enough to clear some space so I can continue scanning items. This happens every few minutes. It gets full, I stop to help, clear some space, and keep going. This is where the Karen comes into play. She is maybe early 40s, long brown hair, and looks nothing like a Karen, except for the way she was standing with one hand on a hip that extended so far to the side that I wasn't sure how she's still standing. She's still in my line, about 5 or 6 people in front of her still. And this is the conversation that follows. Karen says, "Hello, what are you doing?" I don't answer because I didn't think she was talking to me. I just keep scanning. "Excuse me, what kind of cashier are you? Why aren't you doing your job? Stop being lazy and do your job," she screams at the top of her lungs. "I'm sorry, ma'am. I'm just trying to." "That's not your job. You are a cashier. Do your job. Do your job." I realize now, after reading so many Reddit stories, that this would have been a perfect chance for some malicious compliance. I'm sure some of you hope that I did just what Karen wanted. Too bad I didn't know about it then, or that it was only my 4th day on the job. That's not what happened, although I dream sometimes that I did just that. You know, like sit back and sip my coffee until the space cleared for more scanned items. You know, be a cashier. Next time. I said, I'm just helping to move things along faster. If this is a problem, or if you're in a hurry, feel free to move to another line. I'm sure another cashier will be more than happy to serve you. I may sound like I'm the a-hole with this line, but I said it really nicely, not sarcastic at all. Obviously, that didn't help. Karen, not listening anyway, and having none of it, shouts, "Just do your dang job. You are a cashier. What is wrong with you? Are you stupid? You should be fired." I stop listening at this point, and I don't answer as I'm still helping to bag and scan as fast as possible, knowing it's not going to help anyway. However, I see one of my managers, let's call him Joe, walk up to Karen. Joe is great, by the way, always helping the workers. Joe says, "What seems to be the problem?" Karen, still yelling, shouts, "Your cashier is awful. She is lazy and she is not doing her job. You should fire her. Tell her to do her job. She is not doing her job." She repeated that like a few times like a broken record. Joe looks over at me for a second, understands exactly what is happening, turns to Karen and says, "Can't you see she's just trying to help? She's trying to make this go much faster." Now Karen starts screaming words, I'm assuming, but I couldn't really make them out. She was practically foaming at the mouth. Joe tries to calm her down by explaining, or trying to, how me bagging items is actually helping, and this makes Karen even more irate, if you can believe it. Spit flying from her mouth, arms flailing, screaming like a banshee. Suddenly, I notice an older woman, a nice old lady. She must have been around 80 years old, trying to get Karen's attention by tapping her on the shoulder. It takes a few tries, but she finally gets her attention and spins her around by her shoulder. Nice old lady says, "Hey, Karen." "Karen? Excuse me? Karen!" "What?" "Your daughter is crying." This is when the entire store seemed to have stopped talking all at once, like someone pressed mute and turned off the volume. The sea of people in front of me parts a bit, and we all look down and see a little girl who couldn't have been older than 4, clutching her mother's thighs, bawling her eyes out, snot coming out of everywhere, hyperventilating. This girl was terrified, and I can't blame her. Seeing her mother going off like that must have been terrifying, and she has no idea what's happening. She's in a huge store where she knows no one, and she's practically invisible. This silence lasted an entire 2 seconds because that's when Karen started yelling at Joe. "Look what you did, and you and your stupid lazy cashier, you made my daughter cry," and a bunch of other just crazy sounds that were perhaps supposed to be words. Things happened in slow motion for the next few seconds. She starts to swing towards Joe. Now, Joe's not a big guy, but he is bigger than Karen, that's for sure, and he's not easily intimidated. Not his first Karen. She would have decked him right in the face if the nice old lady hadn't grabbed her in a bear hug to stop her. Yes, she did. I had to pick up my jaw off of the floor. At that point, other customers got involved, trying to peel off the nice old lady from Karen and stop Karen from trying to kill Joe, and from Joe trying to kill Karen because he was just fuming by then. At this point, I saw mall security storm the castle. Our store was inside of a mall, and the sea of people just surrounded Karen, and I couldn't really see much of anything anymore. Kind of like football players when there's a fumble and they all jump on the ball. By the sound of yelling getting farther and farther away, I figured Karen was being either led to the back office or to the mall security office or mall jail. This entire time that this is happening, I'm still bagging and scanning items, and I'm about halfway through this customer's purchase. I finish up with him with no more problems. He was very nice and thanked me profusely for helping with the bags, even though technically it wasn't part of my job. He said that I was the fastest and nicest cashier he ever had the pleasure of meeting. I was just happy to help. No one else in my line complained. I actually got compliments from people about keeping my composure. Apparently, many cashiers in my country think it's okay to yell at the customers and just be plain nasty. I worked in customer service for many years prior, and I have never yelled at a customer, even if they deserved it. Once the rush died down a bit, I went for a break. I met another employee in the back room, and I started to tell him of what just happened when he cut me off. She was yelling at you. I heard that. Well, everyone heard that, but I had no idea what in the world was happening. He told me that police were called and Karen was escorted out of the store and the mall in handcuffs. I filled him in on everything, and we spent the next 30 minutes laughing. I don't know what happened with the child. I'm assuming they called another family member to pick her up. I also don't know what happened with Karen after that, since I ended up working there for another year, and I never saw her again. Hopefully, she learned to do her grocery shopping on Tuesday or Wednesday, or was probably in prison or house arrest. This was the first Karen that I had the displeasure of meeting while working at that store, but it definitely was not the last. I mean, I am just looking at this. Props to OP the cashier for keeping a level head, because that's a skill set that not everyone can do when they're being literally attacked by this Karen. And to top it off, the manager comes out. Of course, Karen wants a manager. Obviously, we knew that was going to happen, right? And then a nice old lady right behind Karen, 80 years old, didn't wake up thinking she wants to deal with this kind of crap today, so she spins around and dang near tackles her. All the while, now this is a big thing here, I'm a dad, so all the while I'm noticing like, oh my gosh, this Karen's 4-year-old toddler is at the mercy of her, and all of this has no idea what's going on, just her mom's being an absolute ballistic lunatic, whatever, and that right there, that kid, man, that kid had to go through that with the Karen. Now what's going to happen to the kid next? Oh man, don't yell at cashiers in stores, be nice, go to another line, wait your turn, just do not be this Karen. Please, do not be her. OP, very well handled. Nice story. I liked it. Did you? Entitled Karen wants to use my wheelchair at an antique store. Posted by Artistic Pain 2355. The cast is me, Nels, an old man, and then Harriet, who is Karen. My husband and I rent a display space in an antique and consignment store for our collective side hustles. I quilt and crochet, and my husband sells customized die-cast cars and diorama supplies. Every few weeks, we go in and restock our space. This store is very large and can be a bit of a maze, and the store has designated rest stops throughout the aisles. One is across from our space. The store does not provide mobility aids for customers, so it's a bring your own policy if you need a walker or a wheelchair. I'm a wheelchair user as I'm paralyzed from an L2 spinal cord injury. My husband and I were at the store restocking the space. My husband had just left to take one of our totes out to our van, leaving me in our space sorting through the tote of the baby sets that I make. When I hear someone huffing behind me, I didn't really pay too much attention to it, thinking that someone might have been taking a break at the rest stop. I was just finishing laying out my sets on the table in our space when the person at the rest stop decided to talk to me. "Do you know if the store has wheelchairs for people to use?" I look up from my task and see an elderly couple across from our space. The old man is standing next to the bench, looking kind of annoyed, while the woman has flopped on the bench in an I can't take another step kind of way. I honestly was concerned that she might have been having a medical issue, as she was just rather plump. "Are you okay?" I ask, about to tell her or her partner to use the phone above the bench to reach the staff desk for help. "This store is too freaking big," Harriet exclaims. "I can't walk anymore." I say, "The store has a chair for medevac use. One of the employees could bring it to you if you need help leaving." "But we're not done shopping." I don't think they have wheelchairs to borrow. They've had issues with rowdy kids riding mobility scooters, so they don't provide them. But if you use the phone above you, you can ask a staff member. Just dial 1 and it'll connect you to the staff desk. There's a sign next to the phone that said this. Harriet seems to be thinking about her options, so I go about my work. Nels wanders down the aisle, possibly looking for an escape route. Harriet shouts, "What about the wheelchair you're sitting in?" "This is my personal wheelchair. It doesn't belong to the store." "Can I borrow it?" "What?" Surely she's not asking to take my chair to go shopping. "I want to use the wheelchair. You're young enough that you could just stand to walk for a bit. I'll bring it back." "Ma'am, I cannot stand at all. I've been a paraplegic since I was 12. This wheelchair is not store issued. It's my personal property that cost a lot of money. If you call the staff, maybe they can let you use the medical chair, or maybe they know of someone in their space that has one that you can buy. But I will not give you my chair and I cannot help you." At this point, I've rolled out of our space. I decided to head towards the vendor door and just leave. Rumor has it, Harriet is still sitting on the bench waiting for someone to give her a wheelchair. Now this is next level Karen here, because this person just assumed what they wanted to. Honestly, that's what it is, and they had no tact, no care or grace to OP to even think just for 2 seconds of what this could mean. OP, you handled this very, very gracefully and well. Wow, this Karen here is just an absolute menace. I'm sorry you had to experience this, Karen, but I'm glad that you were able to handle it like you did. I ruined evil Karen's wedding, marriage, and life. Click the video on your screen so you don't miss this insane story, and I'll see you there.